Hi there, thanks for joining me. My name is Stephanie. I'm an alcoholic in recovery. My sobriety date is March 9th, 2021. And the only reason I've been able to stay off of alcohol is because I practice the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And in this video, we will continue our big book study where I will read the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and I will change some verbiage in order to be a little more inclusive and relieve us of some of the patriarchy and sexism that's definitely in this book. This book was written in 1939, but we're going to take what works and leave the rest behind. You don't have to believe in God, you just have to believe in a higher power of your understanding, whatever that is. Your higher power could be your dog. I really don't care. Picking up in the middle of page 87 into action. If circumstances warrant, we ask our wives or partners or friends to join us in morning meditation. If we belong to a religious denomination which requires a definite morning devotion, we attend to that also. If not members of religious bodies, we sometimes select and memorize a few set prayers which emphasize the principles we have been discussing. There are many helpful books also. Suggestions about these may be obtained from one's priest, minister, or rabbi. Be quick to see where religious people are right. Make use of what they offer. As we go through the day, we pause when agitated or doubtful and ask for the right thought or action. We constantly remind ourselves we are no longer running the show, humbly saying to ourselves many times each day, "Thy will be done." We are then in much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. We become much more efficient. We do not tire so easily, for we are not burning up energy foolishly as we did when we were trying to arrange life to suit ourselves. It works. It really does. We alcoholics are undisciplined, so we let our higher power discipline us in the simple way we have just outlined. But this is not all. There is action and more action. Faith without works is dead. The next chapter is entirely devoted to step 12. Let's pause there. They're correct there. That take what these religious folk have to offer. Take the little bits of goodness from religion. But organized religion, as we know, was created in order to oppress, control, and profit. It was created by the white man to oppress, control, and profit. And that's why we don't believe in that here. We believe in a higher power of your own understanding. The theology is bullshit. It's just bullshit. The Bible has been debunked. But religious people, they have some grains of knowledge and truth and humanity that are worth exploring and listening to. Moving on, chapter 7, working with others. Practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. It works when other activities fail. This is our 12th suggestion. Carry this message to other alcoholics. You can help when no one else can. You can secure their confidence when others fail. Remember, they are very ill. Life will take on new meaning. To watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow up about you, to have a host of friends, this is an experience you must not miss. We know you will not want to miss it. Frequent contact with newcomers and with each other is the bright spot of our lives. We'll pause there. That's so true. The reason AA works is because of the fellowship, of the community, of the gathering of people. That's why it works. It's a pseudo church. It's what church wants to be. There's nothing divisive in AA. We accept all belief systems, and if it works for you, it works for us, as long as it keeps you off the sauce. That's what's beautiful about this program. It is not a hard and strict line of religion and churches. People have a very strong misconception about what AA actually is. It's not a religious program. And giving it back and sharing it with others is exactly how to stay off of alcohol. And I found that to be true. I have a sponsee, I have a sponsor, and I regularly attend meetings and I share at those meetings. The fellowship is what keeps me off the sauce. Because when I drink, I isolate. I'm not one of those drinkers out in the world getting wasted at bars, dancing on the bar. I am at home alone, replaying the trauma from my childhood while I drink my wine in the closet. That's how I drink. And then throughout the day, just to cope. It was never a party for me. It was just getting by with the normal stressors of life and unresolved childhood trauma. So the opposite of isolation is friendship, is fellowship, is community, is unity. And that's why the program works, because you're getting out of your own shell. You're getting out of the things that keep you stuck in your same patterns. If you go to a meeting, it's something new for you. You replace the drink with a friendship, with a conversation, and with a meeting or a study of the book. This is why it works. We're replacing our drinking behavior with good things, like talking to other alcoholics. Another alcoholic is just a person who totally gets you. That's it. There is no difference between you and another alcoholic. I don't care the race, the creed, the gender, the sexual orientation, the financial status. All that washes away when you go to an AA meeting. We're all on the same playing level, the same field, the same plane. And I know it's really scary to do new things, but that is how we're going to get out of this cycle of drinking and regret, and saying to ourselves, oh, I'm going to stop. I'm never going to do that again. I'm only going to drink during these times. I'm only going to drink on the weekends, never before 5 o'clock. That is exhausting. So take that mental energy that you are expending to lie, cheat to yourself, tell yourself a story, and instead do something honest that's challenging, like be honest and show up for yourself and go do something new. You know that when you stretch yourself and grow, you feel better about yourself, and it's your responsibility to do that. You also have the choice to drink. That is your choice. Back to the text. Perhaps you are not acquainted with any drinkers who want to recover. You can easily find some by asking a few doctors, ministers, priests, or hospitals. They will only be too glad to assist you. Don't start out as an evangelist or a reformer. Unfortunately, a lot of prejudice exists. You will be handicapped if you arouse it. Ministers and doctors are competent, and you can learn much from them if you wish. But it happens that because of your own drinking experience, you can be uniquely useful to other alcoholics. So cooperate, never criticize. To be helpful is our only aim. I'll pause there. Sometimes to be helpful, you have to be brutally honest. And you have to tell people to shut the fuck up and put on their big girl panties and make a choice, a decision for change. We're not always sugarcoating everything and hugging a tree and hugging and kissing. Sometimes someone has to look you in the eye and say, you're fucking up your life. Stop. Stop being a fuck up and take accountability. There's a lot of growing up in overcoming alcoholism. Alcohol dependency comes from a place of emotional dysregulation. If you are dependent on alcohol, it's because you don't know how to regulate your own feelings and body. That's not your fault. Your parents didn't teach you. That was their job. But now that you know this, it is your job to make a healthy decision. So when I am dysregulated and I want to drink, it's pretty simple. I just get regulated. Whatever that means. Chew gum, sing a song, have sex, go shopping, do something other than drinking in a smart, modest, measured way. The book tells us that when we feel agitated, we are supposed to pause. That is not something that alcohol-dependent people are used to doing. We're used to quickly deciding to drink whenever something feels uncomfortable or just a little bit uneasy. And you see it in our culture all the time. You'll see people say, oh, I'm going to need a drink for this conversation, or I had a long day, I need a drink. All that's doing is stressing your body more because it's poison. And you're not going to relax yourself long term. You're just going to create more problems and sickness for yourself. Back to the text. When you discover a prospect for Alcoholics Anonymous, find out all you can about them. If they do not want to stop drinking, don't waste time by trying to persuade them. You may spoil a later opportunity. This advice is given for the family also. They should be patient, realizing they are dealing with a sick person. If there is any indication that they want to stop, have a good talk with the person most interested in them, usually their partner. Get an idea of the behavior, the problems, the background, the seriousness of the condition, and the religious learnings. You need this information to put yourself in their place, to see how you would like to approach if you had the tables turned. Sometimes it is wise to wait until they go on a binge. The family may object to this, but unless they are in a dangerous physical condition, it is better to risk it. Don't deal with them when they are very drunk, unless they're ugly and the family needs your help. Wait for the end of the spree, or at least for a lucid interval. Then let the family or a friend ask them if they want to quit for good, and if they would go to any extreme to do so. If they say yes, then the attention should be drawn to you as a person who has recovered. You should be described to him or her or them as one of a fellowship, who as part of their own recovery try to help others, and who will be glad to talk to them if they care to see you. If they do not want to see you, never force yourself upon them. Neither should the family hysterically plead with them to do anything, nor should they tell them much more about you. They should wait for the end of this next drinking bout. You might place this book where they can see it in the interval. Here, no specific rule can be given. The family must decide these things, but urge them not to be over anxious, for that might spoil matters. Usually, the family should not try to tell your story. When possible, avoid meeting a person through the family. Approach through a doctor or an institution is a better bet. If your person needs hospitalization, they should have it, but not forcibly unless they are violent. Let the doctor, if they will, tell them that they have something in the way of a solution. And when your person is better, the doctor might suggest a visit from you, the potential sponsor. Though you have talked with the family, leave them out of the first discussion. Under these conditions, your prospect will see they are under no pressure. They will feel they can deal with you without being nagged by the family. Call on your prospect while they are still jittery. They might be more receptive when depressed. See your person alone if possible. At first, engage in general conversation. Let's pause there. The book is literally trying to tell us how to be a sponsor. It's a little clumsy in its description because it's kind of funny. Telling you about the family or how to approach this person. Just use your best instinct on that. You don't need to go through a doctor or an institution or not have the family introduce you to... That's all stupid. That's just weird. Find your way to that alcoholic to help them however you can, whatever way works that doesn't turn them off to the program. That's all. Back to the text. After a while, turn the talk to some phase of drinking. Tell them enough about your drinking habits, symptoms, and experiences to encourage them to speak of themselves. If they wish to talk, let them do so. You will thus get a better idea of how you ought to proceed. If they are not communicative, give them a sketch of your drinking career up to the time you quit. But say nothing for the moment of how that was accomplished. If they are in a serious mood, dwell on the troubles liquor has caused you, being careful not to moralize or lecture. If the mood is light, tell them humorous stories of your escapades. Get them to tell some of theirs. When the prospect sees you know all about the drinking game, commence to describe yourself as an alcoholic. Tell them how baffled you were, how you finally learned that you were sick. Give them an account of the struggles you made to stop. Show them the mental twist which leads to the first drink of a spree. We suggest you do this as we have done it in the chapter on alcoholism. If they are an alcoholic, they will understand you at once. They will match your mental inconsistencies with some of their own. If you are satisfied that they are a real alcoholic, begin to dwell on the hopeless feature of the malady. Show them from your own experience how the queer mental condition surrounding that first drink prevents normal functioning of the willpower. Don't at this stage refer to this book unless they have seen it and wish to discuss it. And be careful not to brand them as an alcoholic. Let them draw their own conclusion. If they stick to the idea that they can still control their drinking, tell them that they possibly can. if he's not too alcoholic, but insists that if they are severely afflicted, there may be little chance they can recover by themselves. Continue to speak of alcoholism as an illness, a fatal malady. Talk about the conditions of body and mind which accompany it. Keep the attention focused mainly on your personal experience. Explain that many are doomed who never realize their predicament. Doctors are rightly loath to tell alcoholic patients the whole story unless it will serve some good purpose. But you may talk to them about the hopelessness of alcoholism because your offer is a solution. You will soon have your friend admitting they have many, if not all, of the traits of the alcoholic. If their own doctor is willing to tell them that they are an alcoholic, so much the better. Even though your protege may not have entirely admitted their conditions, they have become very curious to know how you got well. Let them ask you that question, if they will. Tell them exactly what happened to you. Stress the spiritual feature freely. If the person is agnostic or atheist, make it emphatic that they do not have to agree with your conception of God. He or she or they or them can choose any conception they like, provided it makes sense to them. The main thing that they be willing to believe in a power greater than themselves, and that they live by spiritual principles. Let's pause there. You can be spiritual and not religious. You can be spiritual and not theistic. You can be atheist, agnostic, and Satanist all at the same time. You can be Wiccan and not be theistic. There are so many words and semantics to describe the freedom that you have as an individual to write your own story. I myself am an atheist. I am an agnostic. I am a Satanist. I'm also a witch. I'm also queer. I'm also an adoptive mom. I'm also a former nanny, a former model, a dental assistant, all kinds of things. And so the amalgamation of who I am is unique to me. This book is not here to tell me what that is or who I am. It's here to guide me, to help me figure that out. And this chapter is letting us know how we, as recovered alcoholics, can then pass the message on to the person in need, the newcomer or the relapsed. And I appreciate this breakdown, although I think it's kind of pedantic and just common sense. Back to the text. When dealing with such a person, you had better use everyday language to describe spiritual principles. There is no use arousing any prejudice they may have against certain theological terms and conceptions about which they may already be confused. Don't raise such issues no matter what your own convictions are. Let's pause there. Yes. If you're a person who's trying to help others recover, this is not your time to push your beliefs on the person in need. This is your time to listen, absorb, and be a sounding board of neutrality. Back to the text. Your prospect may belong to a religious denomination. Their religious education and training may be far superior to yours. In that case, they are going to wonder how you can add anything to what they already know. But they will be curious to learn why their own convictions have not worked and why yours seem to work so well. They may be an example of the truth that faith alone is insufficient. To be vital, faith must be accompanied by self-sacrifice and unselfish, constructive action. Let them see that you are not there to instruct them in religion. Admit that they probably know more about it than you do. But call to their attention the fact that however deep the faith and knowledge, they could not have applied it, or they would have not drank. Perhaps your story will help them see where they have failed to practice the very precepts they know so well. We represent no particular faith or denomination. We are dealing only with general principles common to most denominations. Outline the program of action, explaining how you made a self-appraisal, how you straightened out your past, and why you are now endeavoring to be helpful to them. It is important for them to realize that your attempt to pass this on to them plays a vital part in your own recovery. Actually, they may be helping you more than you are helping them. Make it plain that they are under no obligation to you, that you hope only that they will try to help other alcoholics when they escape their own difficulties. Suggest how important it is that they place the welfare of other people ahead of their own. Make it clear that they are not under pressure, that they needn't see you again if they don't want to. You should not be offended if they want to call it off, for they have helped you more than you have helped them. If your talk has been sane, quiet, and full of human understanding, you have perhaps made a friend. Maybe you have disturbed them about the question of alcoholism. This is all to the good. The more hopeless they feel, the better. They will be more likely to follow your suggestions. Let's pause there. That sounds manipulative, huh? But it's true, because we forget about the hopelessness until we're hugging the toilet, or going through withdrawals, or having a seizure, or losing our home, or having a DUI. You know, that's when we forget. So to remember the hopelessness, to remind them of the hopelessness, and to be there when it is hopeless, is to make change. Because many people who turn to the drink have had a lot of failed relationships in life. And the reason they drink is because the drink is there and doesn't disappoint. It shows up. So if you can be a person that shows up instead of the drink, like the program does every time a meeting is scheduled and I show up, the people show up. If you are that for them, they will not need to drink. They will feel the rewards, like I have felt, in abstaining, pausing, thinking, and making a better choice. And so, yeah, help them feel the hopelessness that is the alcoholism, so that they can maybe take your suggestions, because these are suggestions of love and help. Back to the text. Your candidate may give reasons why they need not follow all the program. They may rebel at the thought of a drastic house cleaning which requires discussion with other people. Do not contradict such views. Tell them you once felt as they did, but you doubt whether you would have made such progress had you not taken action. On your first visit, tell them about the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. If they show interest, lend them your copy of this book. Unless your friend wants to talk further about themselves, do not wear out your welcome. Give them a chance to think it over. If you do stay, let them steer the conversation in any direction they like. Sometimes a new person is anxious to proceed at once, and you may be tempted to let them do so. This is sometimes a mistake. If they have trouble later, they are likely to say you rushed them. You will be most successful with alcoholics if you do not exhibit any passion for the crusade or reform. Never talk down to an alcoholic from any moral or spiritual hilltop. Simply lay out the kit of spiritual tools for their inspection. Show them how they've worked with you. Offer them friendship and fellowship. Tell them that if they want to get well, you will do anything to help. If they are not interested in your solution, if they expect you to act only as a banker for their financial difficulties or a nurse for their sprees, you may have to drop them until they change their mind. This they may do after they get hurt some more. If they are sincerely interested and want to see you again, ask them to read this book in the interval. After doing that, they must decide for themselves whether they want to go on. They should not be pushed or prodded by you, the partner, or the friends. If they are to find their higher power, the desire must come from within. Let's pause there. Again, this book was written in 1939, so it's basically saying if you have a sponsee, tell them to read this book and get back to you. In the year 2026, do not tell anybody to read the whole big book and get back to you. It's hard to read. You can listen here and listen on the audiobook and parse through it slowly. But requesting somebody to read the big book like fully before they begin the program is unrealistic. Don't do that. Maybe they had time to do that in 1939 when things were different, but I don't know anyone who has time to read such a boring book, because this is a boring ass book, let's be honest. It has really good pieces of knowledge that I like to integrate and I want to teach you, but it's boring. So go ahead and give them the book and tell them to give it a look, but don't put pressure on them to read it, because that's just a great excuse for them not to. You cannot give them a million excuses to call the program difficult, because then you're not being a good sponsor. Piecemeal it, just a little at a time, and let them lead. You're going to want to read them, and this is why being a sponsor helps helps us stay off alcohol. It's because when we're interacting with alcoholics, we learn how to be patient, how to be kind, how to shut our mouths and listen. So as we practice this skill with a sponsee, we are now becoming better, a better human, a better us. And as I share this with people, it allows me to keep it active in my life. It would be really easy to not read this boring book and not engage in Alcoholics Anonymous 5 years after, I've drank. But that is where the alcoholism will creep back in. I just know it, because the big book tells us to keep coming back, to keep giving back. And so I'm just going to listen to the big book. Why? Because it's so much easier than doing it my way. When I did it my way, I ended up almost dead from alcohol. Back to the text. If your prospect thinks they can do the job in some other way or prefers some other spiritual approach, encourage them to follow their own conscience. We have no monopoly on our higher power. We merely have an approach that worked with us. But point out that we alcoholics have much in common and that you would like, in any case, to be friendly. Let it go at that. Do not be discouraged if your prospect does not respond at once. Search out another alcoholic and try again. You are sure to find someone desperate enough to accept with eagerness what you offer. Let's pause there. That's true. It's only been about a year since I was ready to sponsor, and I've had a few people call me. But that is the biggest hurdle, that first asking for help. There are desperate people, and the best way to find sponsees or people to help is to tell your story at meetings, because once they hear you and how it worked for you, they will be more inspired to stay. So I've had a few sponsees who've called me, reached out for help, didn't want to stop drinking, didn't think they had a problem, relapsed, all of these things. And you'll have a lot of starts and stops. Don't get discouraged. This is a lifetime journey. This is your, for lack of a better word, religion now, is alcohol abstinence and carrying that message to other alcoholics in need. That is what will keep you on the path, because now you're accountable. Now you got to be better for others. And staying accountable, this is why we take commitments at meetings, like doing the coffee at a meeting or doing the chairs. We take commitments so we can stay accountable. And having a sponsee allows us to stay accountable. Back to the text. They may be broke and homeless. If they are, you might try to help them about getting a job or give them a little financial assistance. But you should not deprive your family or creditors of money they should have. Perhaps you will want to take the person into your home for a few days, but be sure you use discretion. Be certain they will be welcomed by your family and that they are not trying to impose upon you for money, connections, or shelter. Permit that and you only harm them. You will be making it possible for them to be insincere. You may be aiding in their destruction rather than recovery. Never avoid these responsibilities, but be sure you are doing the right thing if you assume them. Helping others is the foundation stone of your recovery. A kindly act once in a while isn't enough. You have to act the Good Samaritan every day, if need be. It may mean the loss of many nights' sleep, great interference with your pleasures, interruptions of your business. It may mean sharing your money in your home, counseling frantic wives, relatives, innumerable trips to police courts, sanitariums, hospitals, jails, and asylums. Let's pause there. No. Or sponsor does not mean that you will be taking innumerable trips to sanitariums and hospitals. This is just not how it is. I guess back in the day when telephones were brand new. But no, you will be put upon by your sponsee, of course. And you close off the boundary, you set the boundary where it needs to be. And you only do what you can. But the big book telling you that it's kind of going to be like overwhelming and going to have to go out and do all this stuff, nah. No, if you have to do that, then it's probably going to be taking more from you than it's giving you. Sponsoring should be easy. It should come easily, naturally, and on its own. I knew I was ready to sponsor because I just felt ready. It's going to be different for everybody, but I definitely wouldn't take a sponsor who was only a year sober. That's crazy to me. My sponsee My sponsor was 12 years sober when she took me on. And I'm 5 years sober before I ever took on a sponsee. Would I trust anyone under 5 years? Probably not for myself. But if you really connect with somebody and they can be a good sponsor for you and they have time under their belt, then by all means, go for it. We're just looking for fellowship, friendship, and a common bond in alcohol dependence. Back to the text. Your telephone may jangle at any time of the day or night. Your partner may sometimes say they are neglected. A drunk may smash the furniture in your home or burn a mattress. You may have to fight with them if they are violent. Sometimes you will have to call a doctor and administer sedatives under the direction. Another time you may have to send for the police or an ambulance. Occasionally you will have to meet such conditions. Let's pause there. I totally disagree with this. If you are a sponsor, I just can't see a situation in which I would have a sponsee drunk in my home destroying furniture. I don't agree with like opening your home to these people unless we're talking about somebody who's like a family member or you know very well. And also, not in today's world would anybody be telling you to administer sedatives to a drunk person on your own unless you're a medical professional. So this stuff is very 1939 and we're just gonna like let that go. Moving on to the text. We seldom allow an alcoholic to live in our homes for a long time. It's not good for them, and it sometimes creates serious complications in a family. Though an alcoholic does not respond, there is no reason why you should neglect their family. You should continue to be friendly with them. The family should be offered your way of life. Should they accept and practice spiritual principles, there is a much better chance that the head of the family will recover. And even though they continue to drink, the family will find life more bearable. For the type of alcoholic who is able and willing to get well, little charity in the ordinary sense of the word is needed or wanted. That's true. Let's pause there. If we're talking about someone who wants to get well, there's not going to be a bunch of charity. You're not going to be giving them money and giving them rides and giving them jobs. No, that is not your job as a sponsor. In today's world where we understand psychology, codependency, enmeshment, secure attachment, anxious attachment, all these different things they did not understand in 1939, we now understand that this part of this chapter is defunct. We definitely do not want to be taking on sponsees that induce a conversation with our partner where they say they feel neglected. If your partner is feeling neglected by your sponsor responsibilities, you're doing it wrong. Don't do that. You don't have enough bandwidth to do that. You got to know how much you can handle. Back to the text. The people who cry for money and shelter before conquering alcohol are on the wrong track. Yet we do go to great extremes to provide each other with these very things when such action is warranted. This may seem inconsistent, but we think it is not. It is not the matter of giving that is in question, but when and how to give. That often makes the difference between failure and success. The minute we put our work on a service plane, the alcoholic commences to rely upon our assistance rather than upon their higher power. They clamor for this or that, claiming they cannot master alcohol until the material needs are cared for. Nonsense. Some of us have taken very hard knocks to learn this truth. Job or no job, partner or no partner, we simply do not stop drinking so long as we place dependence upon other people ahead of dependence upon our higher power. Pause there. What does that mean if you are an atheist? Higher power just means whatever gives you strength. Whatever you turn to feel motivated, to feel loved, to feel connected with something bigger than yourself. That's all that is. For me, sometimes my higher power is watching the television show I Love Lucy. Yeah. Sometimes my higher power is watching an old movie or a TV show or reading a love letter from 20 years ago. My higher power takes different forms all the time because my higher power is not a thing. It is a feeling. The power is a feeling, a oneness, a calmness, a connectedness with self and the universe. And that is what we're talking about when we're talking about higher power. When you depend on your higher power, meaning something bigger than yourself, It can be a group of drunks, G-O-D, which would be an AA meeting. That can be your higher power, and that is where the unity, fellowship, and service come in. And when I turn to my higher power, like the book or the program or my sponsor or sponsees or my fellow AA members, then that is where my higher power lives. And I feel powerful. I feel like I have conquered the obsession to drink, and I have. And it's only because I turn to that higher power, which is the meetings, which is this book, which is the self-help track of looking inward, taking accountability, apologizing, and making change when necessary. That is my higher power, that feeling that I get when I apply spiritual principles to my life. Moving on with the text. Burn the idea into the consciousness of every person that they can get well regardless of anyone. The only condition is that they trust in a higher power and clean house. Now, the domestic problem. There may be divorce, separation, or just strained relations. When your prospect has made such reparation as they can to their family and has thoroughly explained to them the new principles by which they are living, they should proceed to put those principles into action at home. Let's pause there. What does that mean? That means when you're wrong, stop, admit, apologize, and make change. Please don't apologize over and over and continue to do the same thing. That is not recovery. If you're finding yourself apologizing for the same things over and over, you're failing at recovery. Apology and amends is what we have to do. And amends means change. Apology means nothing when you continue to make the same action over and over. So putting into action what we've learned is take accountability, apologize when necessary, pause before reacting, reason instead of reaction. That is into action. And when you can do that daily with your family, with the small annoyances of minutia that come up daily, then you are putting your program into action. If you're putting your program into action, that means you are not losing your temper, you are not flying off the handle, you are not yelling. And that's my biggest character maladaptive behavior, is the yelling. Because I was never heard as a child, so I have this thing where I think if I feel like I'm not being heard, I have to scream, and I'm really good at screaming. It doesn't work. It doesn't have me heard. It has me averted. People don't want to hear that. So the program of recovery has literally given me the ability to stop myself from yelling, which is a very huge accomplishment. I come from a home as a child where people raised their voice when they were upset. Nobody could stay regulated in their bodies. And so that is my life lesson. I have to stay regulated in my body. And when I feel myself getting worked up, dysregulated, it is my responsibility as a person in recovery to check in with self. Notice self. Remove self from stressor. Calm down, get regulated, and then reintroduce self to address the stressor. It's that simple. Walking away, calming down, coming back to visit when you're regulated. That is putting it into action. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? It's really hard if you've never done it before, but I'm getting better at it because I'm working this program of recovery. Back to the text. That is, if they are lucky enough to have a home. Though the family be at fault in many respects, they should not be concerned about that. They should concentrate on their own spiritual demonstration. Argument and fault finding are to be avoided like the plague. In many homes, this is a difficult thing to do, but it must be done if any results are to be expected. If persisted in for a few months, the effect on a person's family is sure to be great. The most incompatible people discover they have a basis upon which they can meet. Little by little, the family may see their own defects and admit them. These can then be discussed in an atmosphere of helpfulness and friendliness. Yes, let's pause there. We stop blaming and we look at the source of the pain and suffering and we address that as a stressor that needs to be handled. Then we make so much progress. There is no point in rehashing who did what at what time. The best way to get through any stressful conversation is to just talk about how you're feeling and what it's like for you. You just talk about you. I feel this. I need this. I felt like this. Please, this. When we enter a conversation and we are saying you're going to have an argument because you're automatically blaming the other person. And the reality is, no one is to blame for your feelings except your own. That's a fact. Your feelings are your own. No one can control how you feel. That is something that comes from within, from your childhood and with what you're dealing with today. So to take the blame and put it on self is the best thing, because I am the one to blame for my unhappiness. I am the one to blame for my drinking. I am the one to blame for the destruction in my life. So yeah, blame is important, but put the blame where it needs to be, which is yourself. Get rough with yourself. And when you do that, your sponsee will follow suit. And your family will follow suit. When you model self-awareness, mindfulness, and amends, then you will see it reflected in the people around you. When you preach those things and lecture those things, but don't embody those things, you will not see those things. What you will do is instead just break down trust. Back to the text. After they have seen tangible results, the family will perhaps want to go along. These things will come to pass naturally and in good time, provided, however, the alcoholic continues to demonstrate that they can be sober, considerate, and helpful, regardless of what anyone says or does. Of course, we all fall much below the standard many times, but we must try to repair the damage immediately, lest we pay the penalty by a spree. If there be divorce or separation, there should be no undue haste for the couple to get together. The person should be sure of their recovery. The partner should fully understand the new way of life. If their old relationship is to be resumed, it must be on a better basis, since the former did not work. This means a new attitude and spirit all around. Sometimes it is to the best interests of all concerned that a couple remain apart. Obviously, no rule can be laid down. Let the alcoholic continue their program day by day. When the time for living together has come, it will be apparent to both parties. Let no alcoholic say they can never recover unless they have the family back. This just isn't so. In some cases, the wife or partner will never come back for one reason or another. Remind the prospect that the recovery is not dependent upon people. It is dependent upon their relationship with their higher power. We have seen people get well whose families have not returned at all. We have seen others slip when the family came back too soon. Both you and the new person must walk day by day in the path of spiritual progress. If you persist, remarkable things will happen. When we look back, we realize that the things which came to us when we put ourselves in our higher power's hands were better than anything we could have planned. For follow the dictates of a higher power, and you will presently live in a new and wonderful world, no matter what your present circumstances. When working with a person and their family, you should take care not to participate in their quarrels. You may spoil your chance of being helpful if you do, but urge upon a person's family that they have been a very sick person and should be treated accordingly. You should warn against arousing resentment or jealousy. You should point out that their defects of character are not going to disappear overnight. Show them that they have entered upon a period of growth. Ask them to remember, when they are impatient, the blessed fact of the sobriety. If you have been successful in solving your own domestic problems, tell the newcomer's family how that was accomplished. In this way, you can set them on the right track without becoming critical of them. The story of how you and your partner settled your difficulties is worth any amount of criticism. Assuming we are spiritually fit, we can do all sorts of things alcoholics are not supposed to do. People have said we must not go where liquor is served. We must not have it in our homes. We must shun friends who drink. We must avoid moving pictures which show drinking scenes. Moving pictures. We must not go into bars. Our friends must hide their bottles if we go to their houses. We mustn't think or be reminded about alcohol at all. Our experience shows that this is not necessarily so. We meet these conditions every day. An alcoholic who cannot meet them still has an alcoholic mind. There is something the matter with their spiritual status. The only chance for sobriety would be someplace like the Greenland ice cap, or even then an Eskimo might turn up with a little bottle of scotch. and ruin everything. Ask any woman who has sent her husband to distant places on the theory they would escape the alcohol problem. In our belief, any scheme of combating alcoholism which proposes to shield the sick man from temptation is doomed to failure. If the alcoholic tries to shield themselves, they may succeed for a time, but they usually wind up with bigger explosion than ever. We have tried these methods. These attempts to do the impossible have always failed. So our rule is not to avoid a place where there is drinking if we have a legitimate reason for being there. That includes bars, nightclubs, dances, receptions, weddings, even plain ordinary whoopee parties. To a person who has had experience with an alcoholic, this may seem like tempting providence. You will note that we made an important qualification. Therefore, ask yourself on each occasion, have I any good social business or personal reason for going to this place? Or am I expecting to steal a little vicarious pleasure from the atmosphere of other places? If you answer these questions satisfactorily, you need have no apprehension. Go or stay away, whichever seems best. But be sure you are on solid spiritual ground before you start, and that your motive in going is thoroughly good. Do not think of what you will get out of the occasion. Think of what you can bring to it. But if you are shaky, you had better work with another alcoholic instead. Let's pause there. That's true. If you're feeling apprehensive about temptation by going to a place, don't go. Instead, go to a meeting or call your sponsor or another alcoholic. If you're at a place in your recovery where you don't want to be around alcohol because it's still tempting, that's okay. That's part of the process. There is going to be a period after you first stop drinking where the temptation is real and you want to avoid those places. But what they're saying here is that when we work this program of recovery every single day, slowly that temptation falls away because it's never been about the alcohol. It was never about the alcohol. When we curate our spiritual garden, we don't need alcohol anymore, so it's no longer tempting. But you will know that based on how you're feeling about it. And that's your job, to listen to yourself so that you know what you can handle. I definitely would not get a job bartending at this stage in my life. I feel totally confident around alcohol, but would I get a job bartending? No, because I don't need to put myself in that situation. It's just tempting fate, right? Back to the text. Why sit with a long face in places where there is drinking, sighing about the good old days? If it is a happy occasion, try to increase the pleasure of those there. If a business occasion, go and attend to your business enthusiastically. If you are with a person who wants to eat in a bar, by all means go along. Let your friends know they are not to change their habits on your account. At a proper time and place, explain to all your friends why alcohol disagrees with you. If you do this thoroughly, few people will ask you to drink. While you were drinking, you were withdrawing from life little by little. Now you are getting back into the social life of this world. Don't start to withdraw again just because your friends drank liquor. Your job now is to be at the place where you may be of maximum helpfulness to others. So never hesitate to go anywhere if you can be helpful. You should not hesitate to visit the most sordid spot on earth on such an errand. Keep on the firing line of life with these motives, and your higher power will keep you unharmed. Many of us keep liquor in our homes. We often need it to carry green recruits through a severe hangover. Some of us still serve it to our friends provided they are not alcoholic, but some of us think we should not serve liquor to anyone. We never argue this question. We feel that each family, in the light of their own circumstances, ought to decide for themselves. We are careful never to show intolerance or hatred of drinking as an institution. Let's pause there. No, I will show hatred as drinking as an institution. I totally disagree with this. This book came out right after Prohibition was lifted. So I think there was a totally different social belief about alcohol that just is not necessary today. You can show hatred towards drinking. You can with tact, because your honesty matters. Your honesty matters, and let's be honest, there is no benefit to drinking alcohol. Ask the World Health Organization. It's only poison, and it only causes heart disease, diabetes, stroke, cancer. That's what it does. So yeah, it might help some people cope, But the collateral damage of that is far too great for you to show anything but disdain for drinking. So I disagree with the book here saying never show intolerance or hatred of drinking as an institution. No, you can show intolerance and hatred of drinking as an institution. I think that is a healthy position considering how many people die every single day due to alcohol-related illness. Back to the text. Every new alcoholic looks for this spirit among us and is immensely relieved when they find we are not witch burners. A spirit of intolerance might repel alcoholics whose lives could have been saved, and had it not been for such stupidity, we would not even do the cause of temperate drinking any good, for not one drinker in 1,000 likes to be told anything about alcohol by one who hates it. Someday we hope that Alcoholics Anonymous will help the public to a better realization of the gravity of the alcoholic problem, but we shall be of little use if our attitude is one of bitterness or hostility. Drinkers will not stand for it. After all, our problems were of our own making. Bottles were only a symbol. Besides, we have stopped fighting anybody or anything. We have to. Let's pause there. I disagree. We're not done fighting. It's a constant fight. But it's not volatile. You are rewiring your own brain. You can take hatred and intolerance with tact. So I disagree with this. You can say what you think necessary to get through to your sponsee. Sometimes you have to say things that the big book probably wouldn't want you to say. But this book has been around almost 100 years. And so in that 100 years, we have seen that trial and error shows different results. We will end it there for today, the end of chapter 7. And next time we will pick up on chapter 8, which is called To Wives, with an asterisk. Written in 1939, when there were few women in AA, this chapter assumes that the alcoholic in the home is likely to be the husband. But many of the suggestions given here may be adapted to help the person who lives with a woman alcoholic, whether she is still drinking or is in the recovery of AA. I just had to read that because I thought that was funny. Definitely not more men than women were alcoholics. They just hadn't realized it yet. Alcoholism, it does not care what gender you are. It was just back in the day, women weren't allowed to be honest about their lives or have freedom or have money. So the alcoholism just took longer to come to fruition and show its true consequences. We will end today's Big Book study with a reading from the Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo. Live humble as a dog. Live humble as a dog and the world will come alive in your mouth. The day I brought my golden retriever home as a pup, I had no idea that she would become my teacher. She was 7 weeks old and slept in my shirt the whole way home. I could feel her small rhythmic exhalation like a tiny animal wind warming my heart. Day by day, I came to understand her sheer, complete, and constant presence. I never knew anything to be so thoroughly involved in the moment at hand, so innocently devoted to whatever was before her. If she was rolling in grass, the world was the grass and the feel of the roll. If she was circling the rug to lie down, life was solely the want to curl and sigh. I came to envy my puppy's ability to be completely wherever she was. I also came to understand how she knew the world through touch, primarily through her mouth. Without the hesitation that plagues humans, she stuck her snout in everything, and this immediate knowledge of things gave her joy. This little dog, incapable of words, taught me that there is an inexpressible feeling of foundation that comes from staying directly connected to the earth, a humility that comes from directly touching whatever we are experiencing. This direct connection helps bring things alive. It is refreshing. In this way, the energy of the world floods through whatever moment we dare to enter fully. Here's the meditation. This is a walking meditation. So you're going to center yourself and walk in rhythm with your breathing. As details come alive for you, the light on a branch, the slickness of a puddle, the moss growing from a stone, try to touch the simple things that call to you. Breathe deeply. Breathe deeply and nose your heart into the day. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, no drinking, keep smiling, and if you need a friend, please reach out. Namaste.